We're going to open the hearing for 65 Tyler Road. I'm sorry, I forgive me, 165.
My name is Jan Gleistein. I'm an architect for Mark and Sarah Williamson at 165 Orchard Ave. I'm here today with Sarah there. And this project was originally brought forward before the planning board last May and June. And the day before, and there was a sidewalk back then. And the day before the hearing we're having tonight, Joe Layton Studley picked up a technical anomaly, which was that the property, which is 64,000 square feet and the 60,000 zoning, overlapped the right-of-way area didn't count to the minimum requirement. We were short by about 400 square feet. So we then...
So the right-of-way didn't count?
Doesn't count for
Doesn't
the
count
zoning
for the
minimum,
zoning? Okay.
even though we have a property that's
Yeah,
64,000 extra. So we were advised to withdraw our application, even though we had gone through, which you'll see tonight, we'll recap, that we reduced the existing lighting over 32,000 lumens, which is existing, at the recommendation of Joe and Kim Turner, and we went through David Conway and drainage, and everybody basically, we did everything until we reduced the existing lumens down to close to what is required of a new project, just slightly over, but we just basically took out lights and downgraded the lumens. And then we also have screening. So my landscape colleagues will talk about the lighting and landscape screening. So what we're doing is a one-story addition on the rear of the house, which we feel is the minimum. It's 855 square feet. So we'll get to that in a moment. So the history is we went to zoning and successfully got two variances. One was the nonconformity of the 60,000 square foot lot requirement. And secondly, there were these changes to the zoning over the years, and our lot was created in 1972. And we attempted to negotiate with the neighbor, and they were offered exchanging us land to satisfy the lot requirement and the mid-width requirement, but we finally failed in the current subdivision shape of the lot. And so zoning saw the merit in our case and granted us two variances for all these things. So now we have sort of a legal lot. With that out of the way, we're back. Thank you. And we're here to talk about a one-story addition to the rear of this lot with some landscaping. In one last piece of history, which is in our original requirement, we designed a enlarged roadway, which then in turn increased the impervious.
Roadway?
So the driveway, motor court, my mistake. And so we, in order to pick up the additional impervious, designed a drainage structure. So in the meantime, we built the driveway, expanded just because it was a very tight driveway for me, one college, two high school education, so they don't have motor court to move around. It's a very steep driveway, and then you've got to figure out how to turn around and back in. So that's been, in the meantime, done, and the drainage built. According to the design submitted to West, I'm filling for Rob Gemma tonight. He was up to 12 o'clock over at the hearing, and so I said, I will do that. So I'm Rob Gemma for the time being. So we built everything according to the exact plans that were vetted by David Conway and Joe Kim, and now it was approved by Richard Sweeney of Weston DPW, so he's signed off and approved this. That's the engineering side of the equation. So again, the neighbors were on the lot, a lot of existing shingle and colonial structures. as part of the requisite analysis. As it so happens, our client owns one of the abutting properties to the north of it, and my orientation. Yeah.
That's the upper left.
Yeah. We just have to, there we go. So we have Orchard Road, we're here, and they own this one. And so this is our subject property. This property was a house built about 10 years ago, and it was one of these like 5,980 square foot houses. So that's, that is the next engineering plan. It's easier to read because you see the limit of work adjusted for this part's been built, and in dark brown is the subject work we're proposing one-story addition.
Here.
So now to just to look at what the house is. But it's not just that. We're on the rear of the house. It's trim style. We're adding one-story level here, conservatory, and we're filling in between these two bump outs and squaring that off all in one story. There's a backyard is highly sloped, so a straight area that slopes up. That's the existing front. There's a very steep driveway, and then there's a lot of these existing lights and floodlights, so we're taking a lot of this off, and then we're replacing them with ones that reduce the wattage limits, and then that brings down by over a third, sort of there, and along in our landscape.
You're replacing fixtures.
Correct. You know, and then replacing the fixtures because they're rated for higher wattages, even though they have lower wattage bulbs. So as part of the planning protocol, we have to have the fixtures, you know, rated for the amount of lumens that we will have.
And you have lighting schedule as well. Come up later.
Yes, and that's all been, yes. Thank God for landscape. The house proper, this is the architecture in a nutshell. Shaded in light pale yellow is the fill in between the two bays for the kitchen. There's a one-story bedroom addition and a conservatory. You see here on the rear the massing extent. Fairly, none of the neighbors will be able to see this. The neighbor to adjacent.
Young, just hold on for just a second. Jeffrey, would you mind closing those doors? Sorry about that.
So we'll see how we screen the neighbors here. There's a lot of mature evergreen screening that is so high that there's nothing in the lower understory. So our strategy is to bring an understory screening and include. Once you screen that view, the other grade goes up, and even though our client owns the other property behind, the change in topography makes it difficult to even see. So it's one of these hidden additions. So that's the architecture piece. We call it stealth architecture, perhaps. And then this is just the front, which is unchanged. And the second floor, as part of the addition, we just have a deck there. So that's the extent of the architecture. So now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Martin Woodward of Gregory Authority Systems.
As Jan mentioned, this is the landscape plan. We have the driveway and the existing loader existing residence and then the proposed addition that just spoke about. In terms of the landscape, there's a series of existing retaining walls and steps and pathways on the rear hillside. Those are all going to remain in place. And then we're proposing to remove the existing stone patio to make way for the addition and then reinstall 2 smaller stone terraces with stepping stones to connect them and stepping stones around the side of the house. There's a built-in grill and then a freestanding water feature out here and then a single stone step out of each of the 4 egressways on the back of the house. In terms of screening,
You have the screening on that one?
I do. So as Jan mentioned, the 2 neighbors here are significantly higher and they look through already both sides, so we're not overly concerned about the views from them. But this neighbor, we are, and we're going to augment the existing evergreen and deciduous trees that are along this property line with 2 14-foot Norway spruces, 2 14-foot hemlocks, and 3 12-foot hemlocks to fill in the gaps between the existing trees here. And then up here is the existing growth hemlocks that are starting to lose their lower branches. So we're proposing to put in 5 rooted entrants to fill in the understory layer in that location. We went with kind of medium-sized plants because we just fit the footballs in among the existing trees and didn't want to destroy them. That's there. In terms of the lighting, as Jan mentioned, the existing lumens on the site are almost 40,000, which is obviously well above the 22,000 limit. So our proposed lighting brings us down to 21,670 right under it. And we did that by replacing some of the existing fixtures with LED fixtures that have a lower lumen output. We're removing all of the floodlights on the house, removing there were some existing uplights on the back hillside as well. But we're keeping the cap lights and we're downgrading the fixtures on the house.
What are those little lights along the driveway?
These are, they're in-wall downlights. The existing ones that are there are large uplights. So we're
So these are shielded down lights,
Yes.
basically past the flow down.
and a small path light.
Well, maybe we ought to ask Kim. Kim, do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a difficult time hearing the presentation, but I'm familiar with the plan and the site, so.
Do you want to address specifically the objective of layering I'm not sure the orientation on the house, but it's
The neighbors would
right.
be.
Exactly.
Yeah, they-
Along, you mean between the house and on the driveway side?
Actually, I'm trying to get the sense for it.
It's the garage side of the house.
Behind, isn't it? Oh, okay.
It's behind the
yeah.
garage.
Yeah, the garage is
Yep. Are you?
Yeah. So if you're looking at the plan on the left-hand side,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah. I believe what I heard was that there's a decent amount of existing trees there, hemlocks and such, that their lower branches are gone. So
Correct.
understory is the right thing to do there. The maxi roadies should be fine with that amount of light and also with that amount of size. It's also a pretty narrow area there to plant in, so I think, understory is the best thing to do for that reason as well.
Did you call out the species?
rhododendron.
Okay, so you already knew that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you think the size and number of the Norway spruces and the hemlocks are good?
I do, yes. Towards the back, it is,
Yeah.
it's a little bit better. And I don't know if you remember from our original thing on the mistake that their rear planting is really nice.
Exactly. It's all down in
Yeah.
the bowl. It's a beautiful backyard.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, with all the mature trees along the ridge. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
right. And as I recall, the front to Orchard Ave
It's
It
very
looked
nice.
really nice too. I mean, you really were
Yeah.
unaware of the fact that this house was there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're happy?
I am.
Okay. Thank you, Derek.
Okay, I mean, unless we think we have other questions, I think we could just disconnect the call with,
We're gonna let you go to bed.
Thanks.
I know, that's a joke, right? Thank you,
Thanks,
Tim.
Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Night-night.
Bye.
Also, David Conway submitted this email at 4:51 today. Joe, I know Richard Sweeney already reviewed and approved the stormwater plans for 186 Orchard, but I also reviewed the stormwater for the site, and I'm okay with what is proposed, Dave. As Jan had mentioned, a lot of the work was subject to a stormwater permit that was applied for and issued from the stormwater engineer. So David had basically just looked at the information that was submitted with our application, which basically was redundant for what was already reviewed and approved for the stormwater engineer.
So I'm looking at the lighting page, and it looks like all the uplights are to be removed. There is one flood on house, and I'm not quite sure. It looks like it's, I'm not sure exactly where it
I
is.
think those are the existing pictures that you're looking at, so the floods are getting removed.
So the proposed lights.
Yes,
I did see a flood there.
No, I was looking here. So these, in other words, I'm looking at the existing
Yep,
lighting
those are the
page.
existing
Right.
lighting.
All of these are being removed
No,
of the existing?
some of it will be replaced. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean,
These are all.
Yeah, they're all gone.
They're all being,
They're
the
gone.
path lights are
Yeah.
still reusing the path lights.
Okay. So that's the only,
Yeah, but they're
everything,
built
all the
shape,
other
yeah.
fixtures, in other words, are actually being removed.
The 3 different ones on the house are being exchanged and replaced with the new ones that are.
The back side is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new ones, right? Yeah.
All dark sky component, I presume. Yeah.
Yes.
David will be back.
Just under the 22,000.
They're actually in the original. There was more lights up in the landscaped areas that I was not only that
So
on
there
the
are a lot
floods,
of
but
lights up in there.
yeah, but those were pared back from what were originally proposed.
You know the sidewalk?
Yes, last.
Yeah. It just stands out in my mind because I love the big block.
Yeah.
Right.
Is what's being proposed, the addition, different than what was originally being proposed last May?
No.
The same?
We made some improvements on the mudroom, so we were able to locate, we had tried to figure out how to relocate condensers outside of the setbacks. We changed the location of the mud door, got a better conventional location, but it's the same project.
Is there a generator on the site?
There is one off of between the living room and one on the opposite end of the driveway. So,
So right here, corner.
Back end.
yeah, exactly.
that it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's installed.
And-
It's one of those tiny little generators. It's
And-
not a Kohler Caterpillar.
And one of the things is that the change in topography, essentially there is no
Just
line of
annihilates
sight.
any
So,
sound.
exactly, it just, and it's a landscape, so then it basically just absorbs anything. There ends up being no, for that house, that change in elevation, there's no, it meets at the property line of the 40 dBA, mainly because the landscape itself is the,
Is the buffer?
yeah.
It's in a bowl.
Any comments from the public?
Planning board wants to make a comment. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I think you have a great.
Come over anytime.
I think it's great.
Any other comments? May I have a motion?
I'd like to move to close the public hearing, please, on 165. Make sure they get the right number. Orchard Ave.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Making our-
One of our probably not the next meeting, but the one after that, February 18th.